Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell, and today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who is struggling with lots of anger at the world and more specifically at her ex. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
No, we are not professionals. We are not trained in any of this. So please take our advice as you see fit. We're only here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs about the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love.
All right, let's get into our check-in topic because it is Monday. So this check-in topic is actually inspired by a letter that we got from a confused lover whose pronouns are they, them. I'm just going to read the thing because it's very short. This is maybe more of a check-in topic, but how do you know when you're in love? Just like a really simple question for us to answer on this Monday morning. Does the way you feel in love change with age? I was very in love with my ex who I met in my early teens and was with until my early 20s, but it feels like since her, I have been on a lot of dates and I don't feel the spark with anyone. I'm starting to wonder if the kind of falling in love in my teens is different from the falling in love in my 20s, and if so, if falling in love in adulthood is more of a choice. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great question. I think we answered something like this literally probably like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was like one of the first few episodes where we answered this question.
What's the difference between like being in love and love or whatever?
Yeah.
And that comes to mind because I truly feel like my feelings on that topic have shifted a little in the last 5 years. Like, I think I grew up thinking, as many of us do, that like falling in, like loving someone is different than being in love with them. And maybe that's true. But I feel like it's just semantics that we put on this like nebulous, unique human experience that's different for each of us, you know? To the letter writer, to the check-in topic writer, I should say, I think absolutely the way you fell in love with your first love when you were a teenager was absolutely different. It was like literally different neural pathways, new neural pathways were being formed in your still forming brain. And your worldview was different and your lived experience was more limited. So, of course, the way you fell in love back then was different. I'll only speak from my own experience, but I know that when I was a high schooler, my first love, my high school boyfriend, it was the love. It was my soulmate. And nothing could possibly be wrong with him, even though he wore hemp necklaces and
that's hot.
Had a temper. That's not hot. No, he was a wonderful teenage boy. That's what he was.
For sure, yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yep. Mm-hmm. And but at that time of my life, I was really I want to say naive, but again, I'm only speaking to my own relationship and my own self. Like, you might have had a very mature relationship with your high school love or your teenage love, I should say. So it makes a lot of sense to me that after that first love of mine and I broke up, love would feel differently because I was older, I was more mature, I was more worldly at my all-women's college.
Different kind of love was happening at that college. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree that I think love looks different over the course of time. Like, I'm thinking back to like the loves that I had.
Crushes?
The one guy I dated in high school, yeah. But also thinking about like crushes or even like the possibility of getting together. And I feel like the spark was so like all consuming.
Yes.
It took up like so much of my time and energy. And I felt like it was like life changing to have these relationships or these feelings about people. It was like everything about me was involved in this feeling that I was having, or like this relationship that I was invested in. And I think that like over time, I just got more used to the spark. And so it didn't feel like it was like as huge of a thing that I needed to be paying all of my attention to. Like, it was like, yeah, the spark is there. That's great. But also, like, what sort of words do they use to describe me?
Yeah, totally.
Like, what does their behavior indicate about whether or not they are a trustworthy person? Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I didn't necessarily like stop looking for the spark. And I think that, like, you know, even in my relationship with Peter, like, there was a spark there for sure. Like, it definitely felt like exciting. And like, I was interested in dating him. But it also was like, yeah, good, cool, the spark's there. But the spark doesn't necessarily tell me anything, because I also had a spark for that guy that did that thing to me, right? Like, I had a really big spark for that person, and he was a total asshole. So, like,
I think,
spark plus.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is so important to remember too, because I remember like the come down after loving your first love, you know, and trying to love again. You're like, wait. It doesn't feel like that again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm jaded now. Or you look back on that first love in this like reverence, because back then it felt so new and different and pure or intense or whatever it was. And you compare, I remember the stage, right? Like the stage after your first love, where you're wondering, is that the best I'm ever going to have? Or is, you know, you're comparing all other loves to it. I think.
Yeah, I don't. That wasn't me.
That wasn't me
But
either, because I was like
petty
being
bitch,
really
where I just
slutty.
am
But
like, yeah.
no, just kidding. It wasn't me either, but I do know a lot of people hold their first loves in such like high regards. And I think it makes sense. It's like, of course, it's the first time your brain made those connections, your body felt those things, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's probably also like, oh, it's this person that's like causing those things, as opposed to the idea that like,
yeah,
other people can cause those things.
Yes,
You know what I
totally.
mean? Where
Yep.
it's like, it's all connected to a single person, like all of those rushes of hormones and all of those feelings that come up. But it's like, yeah, you can also experience things similar to that with other people. It's like not dependent on that person specifically.
What do you think about, I can't remember if the letter actually asked this question, but like the difference between like loving someone and falling in love with them.
Yeah.
Do you believe in that now? I don't know.
Those are real distinctions on The Bachelor. I'll tell you what, because they're always talking about
really?
like, I think I might be able to fall in love with you, or like, I think I'm starting to, I'm falling in love, and then like, oh, I love you. Like, it's like it's a prescribed way
That's
of going
hysterical.
about falling in love with people. It's really funny. Like, there's like a whole language.
Yeah,
like,
there's.
it's just.
I like what you said though, right there. That it's like this language. Obviously, it's a language, but it's like.
Yeah.
It's markers that we've assigned to the human experience that is unique to each person and their ability to experience love. And B, you know, they're like nebulous little road signs out there. Not that it doesn't like, I know that there were times in which I've been, quote, in love with someone versus just like loved this person. But like, I can't really say that there's like a working definition for either of those.
No.
Or at least I
feel
used
like
to
that
think
was
that,
like,
but yeah.
Yeah. I think that like that I have used that language in breakups where it's like, I think we love each other. We're just not in love with each other. And I think that was like probably maybe true, felt true at the time, but I don't think that was actually true. I think we didn't love each other.
Yes.
Like, I think we just like because now that I've like, I think also now that I like have been in a love that is not as much work, right? Like, it's work, but it's also like it's productive work, you know, like it feels like
difference.
it's like, like it feels like it's working towards something in partnership with someone, right? Like, my definition of love has changed because I'm no longer like, oh, it's all just about the feelings that I'm experiencing for this person. And like, we loved each other. We just couldn't make it work. It's like, if we couldn't make it work, then like we didn't love each other, right? Like, love has to necessitate the ways of like, love has to necessitate action, and it has to necessitate like choice in the matter. And so much of what I thought was love was actually just like really strong feelings for someone that didn't actually build towards anything, that actually like made things worse sometimes, right? Like, and so now my definition of love, I think, has changed. And I don't know, if I started dating again, maybe this would be different. Like, if Peter died or we got divorced, like, pray that doesn't happen. But like, the idea that like, I think when I met Peter, I was looking for something different than just like the feelings of excitement and love, right? Like I was actually looking for somebody who I was like, what's it going to look like when we need to like move?
Yeah, totally.
Or like, what's it going to look like when the two of us have to navigate something together? Or how does showing up and being present in relationship look for you? Like what does quality time mean?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff I think was more of what I was looking for. And I think that's kind of where my definition of love changed. I started to know what questions to ask to get towards what I actually wanted, as opposed to just trusting that the feeling would get me there because the feeling was telling me something important about this person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's like a good place to stop. Just some musings about how do we know? I think maybe the last thing I'll say is just I have found that similar to labels for my own personal sexuality and identity, I feel like labels of love become less useful or required the more like, I don't know, settled into the said thing you are. You know what I mean? And this is, again, a personal statement of my own experience. But like now that I have settled into this great love, I don't spend my day thinking about whether I'm in love with my wife or not, you know, or like, have I crossed that threshold? You know what I mean? And I don't say that to trivialize it. I think that these are big, important human ponderings, just like what is my identity or what is my sexuality? You know, these are important things to be asking yourself. Am I in love? How do I know when I love someone? This is all part of like the internal quest into yourself. And the further you go into yourself, the more ease and peace you find just existing, just following your own intuition. All right, let's dive into today's letter. Thank you to our chicken writer submitter person. Today's letter is from the angriest girl in the world, grieving, whose pronouns are she, her, who is writing from Cancer Sucks. Hi, Sam and Sierra. I am a 23-year-old cis woman struggling with so much anger. I am currently balancing anger towards my dad's terminal cancer diagnosis, insane levels of anger towards my toxic ex, a 24-year-old cis male, and then my lovely, beautiful, peaceful relationship with my partner. The past year and a half of my life have been unbelievably rocky. It started off really great with me graduating and going straight into a dream job. But 2 weeks into this job, I found out that my dad has terminal cancer, a rare form of stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Soon after this, my boyfriend of almost 2 years broke up with me. He started becoming jealous at the attention and love I was getting from my amazing group of friends. What an asshole. Whom he had inserted himself into despite not really liking, as well as seemingly hating me for staying positive throughout all of this turmoil. Our relationship had started to go slowly south a few months prior, but I thought it was just us getting comfortable. How silly was I? We had some insane arguments with him throwing his phone across the street, screaming at me until he lost his voice over a bad haircut while I cried on the floor, unsure what I had done, getting into shouting matches with my housemates over absolutely nothing, and all in a normal week for us. His reasoning for dumping me was that he needed to focus on his music career because, yes, of course, he was an indie music boy. And I'm triggered. And he would, quote, give too much to any relationship right now at the expense of his career, ... This guy worked at a corporate firm and gigged occasionally on the side. To be honest, after it ended, I was very angry with him and the timing of it all, but I wasn't sad, just relieved that I didn't have to deal with this narcissist anymore. However, now, almost 2 years later, I am realizing that I am extremely angry and upset with him, and I hold the kind of anger towards him that people tend to hold towards an abuser. The longer the time goes on, I realize more and more the messed up things he did, aside from dumping me when I was on the way to see my dying father who had just gone blind due to chemo complications, including sexual assault, and coercion. The guy has serious anger management issues, even arguing with my family and close friends in public and causing so many humiliating scenes. I am such a self-conscious person, and this really did damage my confidence and anxiety. I'm also extremely angry at my mother, as our relationship has significantly changed since my dad got sick. We had been very close. However, now she uses me as her punching bag for her own feelings, using constant passive aggression and sometimes just full-on aggression towards me as an outlet for her feelings, while never asking or listening to my feelings on anything. She's a really good person whom I love so much, but she no longer treats me kindly or has interest in my life or feelings unless it has something she wants to control. When I go home to my family, I feel that I have no space to breathe or express myself, and it is really hard for me. On a happier note, about a month after my ex and I broke up, I met an incredible person in my workplace, 24-year-old cis male, who is now my boyfriend of 1 year and 4 months. He has been a gentle, sweet light in my life, always standing calmly and strongly by my side on everything. I have to think that he is the reason my ex took himself out of my life at my most vulnerable moment, so that he could swoop in and give me the care and love we both deserve. My boyfriend has supported both me and my family throughout all of our struggles and has always understood, even when it has been tough. However, I do feel incredibly guilty that I still feel this anger towards my ex and that sometimes it consumes me. Nothing to do with romantic feelings and everything to do with how most people feel against someone who has deeply wronged them. I guess my question to you both is, how do I deal with this anger and grief towards my ex and my mother, and ultimately towards my dad's incredibly unfair illness, which will take his life most likely in the next year? Where do I put all of this anger so that I can live a normal life and not let it come out in all the bad ways, i.e. when I'm drinking or tired or stressed? How do I explain this anger to my boyfriend, whom I love, without him thinking that I'm still hung up on my ex? I feel like I am a nervous wreck with all this anger bubbling up under the surface. I think maybe I hadn't processed much of this anger at the time as I was in survival mode, but now that life feels easier and safer, it's coming to the fore. Thank you for reading my ramblings, and please know that as a listener of many years, you guys have helped me through many, many challenges, and I just love you both so much. Yours, the angriest girl in the world.
Oh, angriest girl. Thank you so much for writing to us. Just want to start by saying how sorry I am that this is happening for you. You know, the loss of a parent is terrible and difficult. The fact that you're going through this when you're 23 years old is just so deeply unfair. That your dad is dealing with this cancer diagnosis as well as the complications of the treatment and all of that is just so unfair. The fact that your mom is using you as a punching bag as opposed to processing her own feelings around this in a way that might be more constructive is deeply unfair. Being in a relationship with a narcissistic asshole is deeply unfair, right? And then here you are having to hold all of this, which is like very much not yours, is also deeply unfair, right? You know, I think Sierra and I have talked about how like the biggest injustice of shitty relationships is that it's often the person who was hurt the most that then has to figure out how they move forward, right? Like it's on them to try and figure out like, what does the path into something different look like for me? And that's just, it's so unfair, right? Everything about this is just, I'm so sorry that this is what you've been dealt in this moment, right? You didn't ask for it. You don't deserve it. And also it's there, right? You're holding it. And I want to start with that because I just want to I want to see you in the pain and anger that you're experiencing about this, right? It's deeply understandable to me that you would be pretty angry at lots of things in your life in this moment, right? I'm not surprised. I'm not like, oh girl, get it together, right? Like I am like, yeah, I would be pretty mad too that this is what I've been dealt in this moment. So Sierra and I are going to talk to you about what it looks like to manage anger and hold it when we're not practiced at it, when we don't know how or what to do with the anger that we have. We're going to affirm the shit out of you because we love you and we're so sorry that you're going through such a challenging time right now. And we're going to talk about what it looks like for you to move forward, or what it looks like for you to ask for what you need from yourself and from other people in your life in this moment. But before that, we are going to take a quick break.
All right, my darlings, welcome back. I got like unexpectedly emotional.
I saw it.
I don't know why. I didn't cry when I first read this letter. And I think like the emotions that I was like, when you were talking, I was thinking about like, well, where are these emotions coming? Like, why am I getting emotional over this? Other than like, I don't know, general humanity.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's because I relate. I'll share some like personal stories in a second, but I also think it's because like you're not the first like woman identifying person I know that has struggled with anger. And this could be said of like, I think any marginalized community, or, you know, I know queer folks who have experienced this, but I'll speak specifically to like my experience as a woman, like the way we're taught to people please, the way we're taught to internalize our partner's actions, and the way we're taught that like womanhood is like nurturing and soft and feminine and gentle, and that anger is a detriment to our womanhood. And like, honestly, I have tried lately in the last couple of years to talk less about gender in such a binary way, because I don't think it is, but our conditioning of gender is, right? Like our conditioning of what is meant to be masculine or feminine is binary. And I know for a fact that like I was taught as a young girl that like to be an angry woman is to be a bitch, right? To be an angry woman is to be difficult. It's to be undesirable. It's to be, I don't know. I think what the emotions that came up for me is like, how many of us, you know, as a woman or as anyone, you know, have been told that like our bigger, louder, more difficult emotions make us, quote, not normal or less desirable or like whatever. I don't know why I got so emotional, but obviously I care about you, to our letter writer. And that delayed anger makes so much sense to me. I remember, you know, talking about in the check-in topic, like our early 20s, one of my first big loves after my big love of high school was like a really shitty, toxic, unhealthy, and unsafe relationship. And it ended, and it wasn't until like, I think 9 months later, I remember I like went about my life. You know, I got out of that situation. I moved, I got a new apartment, and I didn't see that person anymore. And I was at a time in my life where I was like going out and socializing and really just not thinking about it, like you said, like in a different style of just survival. You know, you're obviously going through so much more. But I remember telling, you know, I was like 23 at the time. I remember telling my friend that I used to like go out drinking with, like, I feel like I'm going to get into a fight. I feel like the anger is just like rising underneath me, this delayed anger, this fury, this like, I could feel it. I felt so volatile. I also have this very vivid memory. I was like a lot closer with my dad at the time. And I have this memory of telling my dad, like, not that I was in an abusive relationship. No, I wouldn't share that.
Of course not. No, absolutely
But
not.
I remember calling him like, and being like, I just feel so angry lately. I feel like I feel so angry. I've got so much anger in me. And my dad being like, oh, is it a women's issue? Like your period, you know what I mean? Like speaking of fucking cultural, like gendered conditioning. And I was like, nah, It's not. Anyway, oh yeah, maybe that's another reason why I got so emotional. I was just thinking, like, without, like, gender aside, gender aside, we've all really been conditioned that, like, these big emotions, anger is not polite. It's not nice. It's a quote bad emotion. And I don't know. I remember that stage of my life so tangibly, and I'll tell you the one thing that I remember shifted me. I was reading a book, and in it, the author wrote, at your hardest time in your life, you were doing the best that you could in that moment with the knowledge and experience that you had at that moment. And even the person that hurt you at that time, they were doing the best that they could with the knowledge and experience that they had in that moment. And when I read that, I remember bursting into tears, like somehow some of that protective anger made way for an understanding, like an empathy for myself, and pity for my ex. Pity that was the best that they could do. Pity that they were trying so hard, and that's how they showed up. It felt, the anger made me feel like it was pathetic, you know what I mean? But it allowed me to feel something through my anger, right? It allowed me to be like, wow, that's the best you could do. That is the best that you could do. And it's unfortunate. It's sad. It's frustrating. It's disappointing. It's angering that is the best you could do, that's how you treated me. That's how you treated me in this time of need. And also, now that you can do better and you deserve better. This is not all what I was going to say. Or at least, we talked about this before, and this is not like you are really far afield of what you were going to talk about. It's just not the order.
I'm like, how am I going to respond to this?
let me say this. I just remember feeling that anger so much, that delayed anger. So it makes so much sense. Like Sam said, it makes so much sense that you're angry. Be angry, girl. That is fucked up. Like, you can be in this anger. And you can show this anger to your partner, to your lovely, safe, stable, and secure partner. And you can say to them, like, I have no romantic entanglements with this person. I'm angry at how he treated me because I'm a human and I deserve to be treated better. Anger is protective. Anger is always a chariot for pain, right? It's always carrying some pain, right? So there's pain behind all of this. Of course there's pain. This big, loud emotion is speaking for the hurt young girl you were, and now your anger is saying, I'm strong enough to protect her. I'm strong enough to be on the defense. I'm strong enough to, like, chew his ass out if I see him on the street. That's what your anger is telling you. And so you can take strength from that. And you also can take solace in the fact that, like, you are in control of your anger. Even though you're feeling this big anger, it doesn't define you, and you get to choose how you interact with it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that we forget that anger is part of grieving, right? Like, it is, when we talk about the 5 stages of grief, I don't ascribe to that because I think that there's, like, it's more complicated than that. And also, like, not linear, but right. Like, anger is a part of it. It absolutely is. And so many of us, and I think Sierra's right, that, like, especially people who are socialized as women, like, are really unpracticed in experiencing anger because it is either suppressed or we, like, have meta feelings about the anger that we're having, right? Like, I shouldn't be having this, or I'm going to feel guilty about being angry, right? Like, I'm going to do whatever I can to not let this log of anger, like, blaze too brightly because I've been told over and over again that it's not good. And also because probably lots of us have seen the ways in which anger managed in unhealthy ways harms ourselves or other people. Because for sure
I remember feeling
in the same
like unattractive, not physically, and not, but I remember feeling like this anger makes me ugly, like as a like an ugly soul, ugly feelings. Which isn't true. You know what's ugly?
It's not true.
Being an abusive partner. Like, that's ugly.
That's ugly.
Not a good look.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's pathetic, which I really like that we're reframing. Like, this is the best that you can do. And it was also pathetic.
I literally
love it.
It was so empowering for me to be like, well, because the ex I'm talking about too, like, on the next episode, we're talking about dating an age disparity, like a power disparity. So tune in on Wednesday. But this ex was 32 and I was 23. And in my healing process, I remember being like, this is the best you can do. Like, this is how you're going to treat me. And I remember feeling like peace from that, like righteousness and pity. Not that I felt like I was better than him, but that all of a sudden it took away his power. You know what I mean? Because then, I pitied him.
And I like that. I like that framing because like Peter and I have been talking, he's been having like trouble with somebody at work, and like, he'll talk about it and he'll like vent about it. And I'll be like, yeah, that really sucks. And then he'll be like, and they're doing the best that they can with what they have available to them. And I'm like, I don't want you to use that as a weapon to like diminish the thing that you're feeling, right? Like, which I think is sometimes how we use it. Like, if they're doing their best, then we just have to be okay with it. And it's like, sure, we can accept that this is their best, but also how can we accept that this is painful or unacceptable or mean or like any of the things that are also true about it, even though it is their best. And I'm thinking about this specifically, Angriest Girl, when it comes to your mom as well, right? Like, she is trying her best. She is going through hell and back, right? Like, I get it. Absolutely. Her partner is dying of cancer. Like, I can't imagine how difficult that is. And also, her best in this moment is deeply shitty to you, right? Like, you don't deserve to be anyone's punching bag. You don't deserve to be the person who just takes it on the chin because she's incapable of doing that right now, right? Like, And I want to say that because I think that your anger about her is really justified and understandable. And I think that anger needs to play out in some way. And does that mean that I want you to go like punch her in the face or like scream at her? Absolutely not. I don't think that would be either helpful for either of you. But I want some place for this anger to go, because as somebody who also struggles with anger as an emotion that I have very little tools to manage because I think it's a bad emotion. And
that is so real.
I put it down. Like, that's what I do. I just am like, that's not a feeling I feel. And then of course it comes out when I am drinking or when I'm in a moment of crisis or whatever it is. And then it comes out in like ways that are really, that I don't want it to, right? Like then that just reinforces, anger's a bad emotion, right? Like I shouldn't be feeling it because when I feel it, then this is how it shows up. And part of what like, and I'm saying this like in real time, like I am not good at this.
This episode is like devolving because I'm over here like just straight crying. Like that. I did not see this coming. Like
it is unhinged. No, like real time trying to figure out what does it look like for me to express anger in a way that doesn't like that acknowledges the reality and the preciousness of that anger, right? Because that anger is mine. And it is telling me something. Often it's telling me that I'm not getting my needs met, right? Like that's where my anger comes from, is that like I'm taking everyone's stuff and no one is taking mine, right? Like, and then I get really angry about it. And expressing that anger is okay. I'm working on finding the ways to express it, to let it burn in ways that feel okay for me and that like also don't cause harm to others, right? Because my understanding is like, if you feel anger, you will harm other people, because that's true of how anger was expressed in my family, right? Like that is true of how my anger expresses itself when I don't feel it and let it just like come out when I'm drunk or when I'm in stress, right? Like, and so what does it look like for you to talk to somebody who you trust, perhaps your partner, about how angry you are, and not sugarcoat it and not like make it into a world-ending experience, but just to talk about, I'm really angry about these things. My mother is treating me really poorly. My dad is dying of cancer, right? I had this ex that fucked up my whole understanding of myself, and like let that thing burn, as opposed to trying to smother it, as opposed to trying to like throw it someplace else, but instead just like let it burn. It will exhaust itself, I promise. And that's hard for me to believe. Like I'm saying this to you because this is what my therapist said to me.
Does anger cool down once it is acknowledged? Like how quickly?
Exactly. I couldn't tell you.
You're like, I have no idea.
You tell me. You tell me how quickly, because I've never experienced it.
You tell me. I'm gonna repeat that for the rest of my life. There are like two things that Sam and I say each other on repeat. It's going to be this one, and the other one is the Oprah quote.
The Oprah quote, absolutely.
Were you angry or were you angered?
That's a good question. I think that's important here.
Okay, anyway, I had like a great segue that I just ruined with that dumb tangent. But this is going back to the segue is you wrote like, I want to live a normal life. I'm going to tell you something like a little soul crushing and maybe a little comforting. This is normal life. Yeah. This is normal life. When your life is peaceful and soft, it's a gift. It's a blessing. It's a special period of your life. Like my life right now is really tiring, but it's very peaceful. And I keep thinking to myself, like, this is a season of my life that I'm going to look back on and cherish, because life is guaranteed suffering. And I love that Sam said that that they don't have the tools. They don't have the right tools for dealing with anger. Not that they shouldn't experience anger, right? It's about the fact that normal life, my darling letter writer, is feeling angry, especially when life has been so unjust to you. It is not fair that your partner was a shitty partner. It is not fair that your father has been diagnosed with cancer. Those are really okay things to be angry at. And now, once we've accepted that feeling, once we've pulled up a chair and said, come sit with me, like, let me learn from you, anger.
Yeah, that's real.
Then we can start looking at the tools that we have for dealing with it and seeing what tools we need. So you wrote in your letter, like, it only comes out when I'm stressed or tired or drunk. Those are good things to know. That's great. Those are great observations to know and then apply to your tools. So then you can say to your partner, listen, I'm feeling a lot of emotional, I'm doing a lot of delayed processing right now. And so when I'm stressed, I might have a shorter fuse. When I'm drunk, I might say something that I regret. Now you know that, and your partner can hold you accountable to that, and you can hold yourself accountable to that, right? It's not about not feeling angry. It's about honing the tools to how to deal with it in a healthy and sustainable way, right? Yelling at your mom and speaking to her only in that anger is not going to. That's not a sustainable tool. But using your anger to guide you to why it is unfair, why it hurts you that your mom is treating you this way, using your anger to guide you to what you do need from her, right?
Right. Or even just like what boundaries you need to put up with her, right? Like, I don't know if she's going to be capable of giving you
That's a whole
what
other
you might
letter.
need from a mom in this moment, right? Yeah, absolutely. But I do think that, like, letting your anger guide you to say, hey, you can't talk to me like that, or to say, I'm not going to answer that text, or whatever it might be, to establish the distance that you might need because your body is telling you right now, like, I'm under attack from this person, right? Like, and not physical, like, I don't want it to make it sound like that intense, but it's like, this person is causing you harm for all of the justified reasons that we have talked about, right? All of those things. But I think sometimes our anger is also telling us, like, we need to stick up for ourselves. Like Sierra said, like, it is a defensive emotion, right? Like, when I'm at my angriest, it is because my needs are not getting met. And I have participated in not getting my needs met because I'm really good. Like, Sierra's like crying at everything I'm saying, everyone. No, like, it's like really intense.
I literally just burst into tears by myself because of a thought I had. the thought is like to the letter writer and also to like all of my loved ones, like to you, Sam, like I want your anger. Like, I welcome it. Like, I'm not afraid of your anger because I trust you and I love you. And my whole life I've been taught that anger is unsafe. But if I actually sit and listen to the peace that my life has now and my intuition and to my humanity, you know, like to this letter writer who I don't know, but I'm not afraid of your anger. Like, this doesn't make you undesirable. This doesn't make you difficult to me. Like, I'm like to quote Frozen 2, my love is not fragile.
Much better than Frozen 1, I'll tell you that.
Sam watched it this last weekend with my toddler. Okay, we gotta wrap this up.
We gotta wrap this up.
I've already
we really do.
Literally sobbed, and we got 2 more episodes recorded. Listen, letter writer, I love you, and I love your anger. And it's a teacher. We hope this helps.
Oh, that was it. Okay. It's a teacher. That's right. And let it burn, right? Let it burn out. It will exhaust itself eventually, as all big feelings do, right? And so find places where it feels okay for you to show the anger and to give it oxygen, right? To give it what it needs in order to burn out. And we love you.
We hope this helps.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Sorry for all of the tears and the wild tangents that we went on in this episode. If you would like more unhinged content from us, you can always support us on... Yeah, I know, right? You could support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get that additional bonus weekly episode, as well as access to our office hours, which is when we hop on Zoom for an hour with everyone who wants to join us and answer questions and have great conversation. That's patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
And this is off script, but if you like our show, shout us out to your friends. Put us on social media. Send your best friends a favorite episode. We really exclusively rely on your word of mouth. So please, if you like our show, tell people about it. You can slide into our DM, send us your favorite relationship memes, but you can also submit your questions at allmattersoftheheart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need 2 random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music, recording, editing, producing all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his music and podcasts. And remember, your anger is trying to tell you something. It's trying to defend you or speak up for you or shake you awake from the experiences that you've been carrying around. It doesn't make you undesirable. It doesn't make you unattractive. It doesn't make you a bad person or partner or child. It makes you incredibly human. And if all else fails,
just break up.